What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So shout out to the brother LB for doing a video on Gabe Kapler. All right, Gabe Kapler is the San Francisco Giants manager who recently announced to the media that he will no longer acknowledge the singing of the national anthem. He will stay in the dugout when that song is being made because he doesn't like the direction this country is going into. And it is sort of deafening, as LB pointed out, the silence. The silence is deafening from those who claim to be champions of patriotism and sensitive to slights of patriotic songs like the Star Spangled Banner or the national anthem or whatever. You know, all these people who were up in arms about Colin Kaepernick, they're quiet right now. What's that about? I thought this was about patriotism. I thought this was about America. America first and all of that shit, right? And this just goes to show you that it never was about that. It's about each side playing politics with issues. But in this particular instance, it was the right deflecting from the real issue, which is what they're doing right now with the mass shootings going on, and villainizing the person or the targets that they want to pin the blame on with deflection tactics. That's what they do. You know, instead of talking about the issue that Colin Kaepernick was talking about, which was some police officers in this country violating their oath, abusing their authority, targeting citizens. We see it all the time. It's getting out of hand. They didn't want to hear that. They made it about you're disrespecting the flag and all of that type of shit. So where is that with Gabe Kapler? I'm gonna tell you what some of these people are gonna do, and I had to think about it a little bit because he said, Gabe Kapler, that he didn't like the direction this country's headed into. Because he didn't specifically say anything about race, what some people could do is flip it and say, well, look, I can understand where Gabe Kapler is coming from, all right? I mean, look, you got the Biden administration, when he says America, they're talking about, you know, they could say, well, when he's saying America, he's talking about the Biden administration and the government. Because, you know, when the Democrats are in charge, or when there's a Democratic president, it's the government. This country. It can be flipping it like, well, he's talking about all the changes that's coming from the left. They can flip it and try to make it seem like, well, he's angry about all the changes and charges from the right. From the left. That's how some of them could be doing it. They could be flipping it like that. Well, you know, I understand where Kapler is coming from. You know, I mean, you know, we don't like all the changes going on in Washington. Biden is trying to turn this country into a liberal haven and into a cesspool that Americans just don't want to. And it could resonate. But, you know, because Kapler appears to be of a certain ethnicity, they're going to flip it. They're going to flip it to something they feel comfortable with. Until he actually comes out and says specifically, no, it's the mass shootings and all these other things that's going on. I'm not proud of my country right now, so I don't want to acknowledge it. So the central issue is still, no matter how much they want to play politics with it, him not acknowledging the national anthem, which they claim is against their sentiments, against their principles, right? They always say that's against their principles, so patriotism. See how it never was really about that. It was never really about that. It was never really about the national anthem. It was about controlling the narrative and being triggered from a visceral standpoint of seeing a black man. And that's not, you can say Colin Kaepernick's biracial, but he identifies strongly as being black. There's no, you know, at the time, Colin Kaepernick had plenty of pictures of him when he still had a low cut. They all love to show the pictures of Colin Kaepernick with this huge blown out afro. Remember, whenever they would show Colin Kaepernick on TV, they never showed him with his cornrows. They always showed him with the big blown out afro to show that, he's this radical black Muslim type motherfucker. The same thing they did with Kyrie Irving. Last year, when everybody was vilifying Kyrie Irving before they magically changed their tune on ESPN, they always showed him with the blown out afro and shit. But at the end of the day, we all know what time it is when it comes to this shit, man. The NBA and the NFL have a reputation for being the black leagues, especially the NBA. The NFL as well, okay? They're seen as the black leagues. So a lot of times when people are lecturing about responsibility in sports and overpaid athletes, they're talking about the predominantly black NBA and predominantly black NFL. Now, Major League Baseball still has a sizable white constituent. Their audience, the people who watch Major League Baseball, still predominantly white, older. There are a lot of Hispanics that play baseball, so they're a little bit trickier, a little bit more careful when they try to criticize Major League Baseball. They're not going to use the same tactics. They're not going to wag the finger, so to speak, So that's part of why you see the silence. They don't want to hear it. Now, let's not sit here and act like, let's not be naive. If this was, say, someone that looked like Mike Tomlin, and he specifically mentioned race, it'd be all over ESPN. And it'd be all over Fox News, and they'd be condemning him. And Jason well, I don't say his name anymore, not on YouTube. A certain corpulent person will be all over him, like him all over a buffet, and, spaghetti all over his plate. They'll be all over him. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say about that, man. Tell me what you guys think.